so scooted over here.
Booty in the frame.
Yeah. All right, well, hello everybody. I have no idea what episode this is. Should have asked you before we
I
started.
think last time we discussed was 15, so that would make this 16.
I think that's right.
Okay.
I think that's next. I think that's
16
next.
does still come after 15. I don't know.
Let's
all this new math.
Common Core math. Let's start off with our sponsor. We're being sponsored by the Old-Fashioned Phone Book today. I don't know that anybody uses these anymore.
I used to use a phone book, and I'm not horribly old.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
I'm getting there. Getting there rapidly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when phone books were useful.
Yeah, this one that I picked, apparently you're supposed to recycle after April 2013.
So we're a little bit past that.
A little past that, but, I don't know. This covers Aldrich, Bolivar, Fairplay, Halfway, Mooresville, Pleasant Hope, Polk, and Stockton. So
Okay.
The Windstream phone book, not too thick, this one, but still yet, we're grateful for their sponsorship. For sure. Okay.
We'll get free internet from them someday.
Yeah, maybe so.
That'd be cool.
Maybe so. I have I think it's a good initial, starting off the wall question.
Okay.
I don't know if it's good or not, but Dave doesn't know it.
Cells all fired up.
We've settled into this where I just surprise Dave with these questions, and I kind of like that. I get to think a little bit about them. He doesn't. So we'll start with that. We'll start with that. You can't hear me probably when I'm facing that way. Okay, Dave. If any of these urban myths / legends / whatever could be true, which one would you want to be true? Okay? I've got 4 of them for you, and I'll give you the option to throw another one out if I didn't think so.
Okay.
If any of these could be true, which one would you pick for it
true.
to actually be true?
Okay.
Bigfoot,
Okay.
the Loch Ness Monster,
Okay.
the elusive Chupacabra, and then this is a big, and then just aliens, like intelligent life form, not of this earth. If you could pick any of those 4 to be true, which would you pick? To me, I'll stop. I'll be quiet. I'll let you think.
Okay. So this might not be the answer you're expecting.
Okay, I know what I'm expecting, but okay.
I'm going with Nessie.
You would
Loch
pick
Ness
for the
Monster.
seriously.
Loch Ness Monster. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Why is that? What's the reasoning here?
So, there's a lot of stories about, Bigfoot being, and he might just be some sort of a giant ape who can kind of walk a little more upright than other things, in which case he might be kind of violent. There's virtually no stories about Loch Ness Monster being violent in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's just like some sort of leftover of the dinosaurs who's living in Lake Loch Ness.
In one lake.
And just
That's
kind of
it.
chilling. And so there's the potential for some good quality bonding with the dinosaur there.
Okay. I would not have thought that. I would have thought Nessie Chupacabra out.
Yeah?
Some people don't even know about the Chupacabra.
Yeah.
You have to look that one up.
Yes.
I would have thought those 2 were out, and it would have been between Bigfoot and aliens.
I thought for sure you were going to go with that. I'd pick aliens.
Yeah.
And I have thought about that one.
You have?
So much.
So
and
you don't necessarily want that to be true.
Right, because it seems like, just based on my knowledge of science fiction, if there were intelligent life forms in other parts of the galaxy, either A, we would never, ever, ever establish contact with them.
Okay.
Because they would be at roughly the same technological place we are, in which case we haven't established contact with any life forms. We haven't found any life forms, so why would they be able to find us?
Yeah.
Or B, they would be so far advanced to us that it would basically be every alien annihilation movie ever. Because we would just be insects.
It never goes well in the movies.
We would just be insects who were in the way of them trying to get resources from our planet.
Yeah. I think for me, aliens is a little too frightening. You know what I mean? Just because I would probably go with Bigfoot how cool would that be if Bigfoot is that like elusive,
sure,
and yet big, but still
you're able to
so elusive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I aliens would be cool if they're cool. Just be cool, man. Like the aliens. They're not going to kill us.
Right. Sure.
So anyway, not good. Not good. All right. So we have a question that Dave's going to read to us. I think.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. I'm not quite sure how this conversation is going to go. If you don't know this, Dave and I don't really. I'll tell you why I'm laughing. I was going to say, if you don't know this, Dave and I don't really talk about what we're going to talk about, like what we're going to say.
Sometimes until the day of.
Yeah, or not at all.
Or not at all.
But I was thinking, like, people are probably like, yeah, we can totally tell that. You know, like, of course we know that. So
it's just so obvious. It's written all over your
the
tone.
The lack of preparation is glaring.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do we got, Dave?
Okay, so the question is, does it do any good to pray for a team to win a game? So the question, this is another one of those situations where the actual question was quite a bit longer, wordier,
more detail
than this. And specifically, they were talking about sports teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm going to take it to just the next level of does it do good for us to pray, for just success in general?
Totally changed the parameters on this thing.
I really did. So we can start with the premise of the conversation, and then kind of probably rabbit trail a little bit. Not too much, because it is an interesting question.
Yeah, they were like, that was way low.
That was just so low.
Part of it was like, okay, does God like rim the ball out? If you're praying, does God rim the ball out? If you're praying and the other team's praying, how does that work? And so I took it a little bit of a different way, maybe, but this I don't want this to sound harsh, because it's not the way I mean it, but it may not be the prayer of a necessarily mature Christian. And I'll explain why. I mean, it may not be the prayer that a mature Christian would pray, like, "Oh Lord, please help me win this game."
Or please help the Chiefs do good, and you're in no way affiliated with the Chiefs whatsoever.
Help the Chiefs, yeah. The reason I say that is because I'll just take you to James 4:3. Okay? He says, "You ask and do not receive, because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions." And so what I'm saying is that it may not be a mature question or a mature Christian who would be praying that prayer, is because often we would pray that for our own benefit. You know what I mean? I would be praying, "Lord, help me win this game," just because I want to win this game, or just because I can't stand this other team. I just want them to lose. They're a bunch of jerks, cheaters, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so it's the potential there is that you're asking for selfish motivations. And so if you were truly like seeking the Lord, truly seeking His glory, the prayer might be more like, "Lord, help me glorify you in this game, win or lose." You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably a deeper level of thought, or maybe maturity in a Christian life.
No, I totally agree, and
it sounds meaner saying it out loud. I don't mean it to be mean. I
kind of struggled with how to word it as well to be kind, because it's not like the person who asked this question is by any means in a minority, in praying that a sports team does well, or praying
anything
that any sort of personal success type thing, or not even personal success, but success for someone else that's going to make them feel good, right? And so I'll start off with just spoiler alert. I'm not a sports fan, so that is literally never a prayer that I think I've ever prayed in my life.
Yeah.
But I can relate to that whole thing of prayer for some sort of, I guess it would be personal glory.
Glory, personal gain. The way the Bible put it, to spend it on your own passions, like your own self. Yeah.
Right. And so I did come, I do have a small section of verses about, like you said, it's kind of in some ways the mark of not a mature Christian, or it's in some ways a mark that maybe your heart's not in the right place.
Yeah, or your goals.
Because
your goals maybe aren't the same as the Lord's goals, and I'll talk about that more in a second.
And that's basically what I was coming down to, is that maybe your goals aren't quite matching up with Christ, because you think about Christ, God, the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, which we talked about before. They're this one entity that's just focused on literally cosmic goals, like just big, huge things, an eternal being. But at the same time, very personal and very focused on salvation and focused on trying to get as many discipled and into the fold, the kingdom, as possible. And so I have this, and most of you are familiar with this section of verses from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust consumes and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where where the treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in our prayer life, that's kind of where, and I think it's good, I think it's absolutely good that maybe your prayer life does reflect, at the very least, it reflects where your heart is, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of people are definitely passionate about sports. There's just no argument about that.
No doubt.
And I'm certainly sometimes passionate about things that have absolutely nothing to do with the Bible. Just get me started on a conversation about Star Wars, and you will find that out so quick.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, certainly, that your prayers are reflecting your heart, but I guess think about the fact that your heart is there, your heart is focused more on sports, and maybe earlier that day you did pray for salvation of people and for things like that, but still it's just kind of more of a selfish, a self-centered prayer type goal.
It at least could be, and probably most often is. That's interesting to think about. Like, it's a good indicator of where your heart is what are you praying? What are you asking God for? Yeah, that's good. If you're not praying, that also probably shows maybe an indicator of where your heart is as well. Yeah. But that's interesting. I was talking about, and Dave was hitting on it as well. I think we should be aligned with God's goals. We should be aligned with what does He want, and His goals are, like you said, they're more eternal. They're oftentimes deeper than the goals that we have. Romans 8:28, you guys know it, most of you, a lot of you. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. Some people would read that and say, well, it will be good for me to win the game, and so God's going to work it to where it's good for me to win the game. But then the question is, well, what if the others are Christian on the other team, and they're taking that approach? It would be good for me to win the game. And that's where God's definitions change from ours. Good, the good thing, the goodest thing, the goodliest thing, may be for you to lose. And you may learn the most from that. You may mature the most from that. You may, your attitude may even lead someone to Christ, because they're like, why would you handle it that way or that calmly or that? Yeah. You know what I mean? So that could actually be the good that a verse like this is talking about.
And that's kind of one of those deals where, and I was thinking about that too, is that, if you pray to win for some sort of God-aligned goal, that there might be some sort of opportunity to further the kingdom.
I was thinking that too. Yeah. Like, what about that?
Then I think, yes, that would probably, I don't want to say it would make a difference, but it would certainly be a prayer that God cares about and that He would, I don't know, take notice of or definitely be on board with supporting.
Yeah, I was thinking that as we were talking. I didn't think about it before.
It is, yeah.
And I was thinking about, like, what about the grandma or the mom that's praying for their kid that I just want my kid to have a blessing, but maybe they need to also have the best in mind for the kid,
right?
And the best maybe for them to lose.
The only
right?
I was thinking this. I was trying to send my brain through the rabbit trail of the team winning and what potential good could come out of that. And there's basically only two things, and one of them is super slim, just a very thin. It's just grasping at straws here.
Okay.
One of them would be that maybe someone on that team just kind of needs to be taught good sportsmanship, but they need to win and then and then see someone else demonstrate how to be a good winner and how to be still humble through victory and that kind of thing. So there's kind of that potential again that seems like grasping at straws. But potential. And then the other one being, and this would admittedly be in the case of maybe a more major, a professional sports league type thing where someone is like, okay, if we win, then I'm going to use, I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna spend some money towards a charity or a specific organization or whatever. And I know that happens more in the gambling aspect sometimes. Is okay, well, if your team wins, then I'll donate $1,500 to your charity, and if my team wins, then you have to donate $1,500 to my charity. So
Lord, if I win the lotto, I promise I'll tithe.
And again, it's one of those grasping at straws things where
that would probably still be a pretty selfish motivation. Lord, I will keep 90% of what I win. But I'll give you 10. So I will say we've seen God interact in situations. I'm not saying He can't make that ball rim out.
Sure.
I'm not saying He can't. Whatever, change the outcome of that game. I just don't know that. I just don't know that he does that a whole lot. I'm not saying he can't. I think of I'm going to go to 1 Kings here, 18, and just to show you an instance where God can do awesome things. Let's see. This is Elijah when he's kind of having the competition, so to speak, with all the other prophets of Baal.
Yeah.
And they're trying to burn up a sacrifice and call on your gods and burn up the sacrifice
without taking any actual flame to it.
Without taking a flame.
You pray to your God, see if they burn up the altar, and I'll pray to my God.
Yeah. And so the prophets of Baal, they dance around, they cut themselves, they do all kinds of weird stuff, trying to get their gods to do something. He obviously
all day long
obviously does nothing because it's not real. Then Elijah comes along, fill 4 water jars, pour it on the burnt offering, do it a second time, do it a third time. Water ran everywhere. O Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back. But see, that prayer right there is what we're talking about. He's like, answer me, Lord, answer me, that these people may know you are Lord God. It's not about, Elijah's not like, so that I will look really good, or so that I'll beat these prophets of Baal, these punks, right? And so then the fire of the Lord fell, consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, the Lord, He is God, the Lord, He is God. I guess I don't know that I have the 100% perfect answer for this, or know exactly how much God interacts with a basketball or a football or whatever.
Right.
But I do know our motivation should they should always be aligned with what's the greatest good here, God. And usually that's not just that we win, or just that we're first, or just that we're best.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of the time, people grow the most from a loss, They become better sports. They learn more about improving themselves from a loss than they do from a win.
Yeah.
So it's quite likely that if you're praying in the way that at least I encourage people to pray, where you say, here's what I want, but I want your will to ultimately be what happens. even in the case of praying for someone who's sick, that's how I encourage people to pray is, hey, here's what we want. We want healing. I want this person to get better. I want this person to be well. I want their family and their friends to continue to have this person for a little bit more time on this fleeting, temporary earth. But that's what I want.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you know what's best, and we want your good to come out of this.
Yeah.
And so, I think that if the heart of your prayer is going before God in that kind of way, if your prayers are somewhat in that subservient manner of ultimately, God, we want your will to be done, then even if you are praying, Lord, let my team win, let this team win, whatever. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised or disappointed at God in any way, shape, or form if that's not how it pans out.
Yeah. I know oftentimes with sermons, like I'll still even get nervous or whatever, and it's probably not a good indicator. It depends on what I'm nervous about. Sometimes I've been nervous that I might just sound dumb, and so I've had to realize, like, well, what if I need to just sound like an idiot up here?
Yeah.
What if I need to stumble through this for whatever reason so that someone sees that or that affects them more than some eloquent speech and they get saved? And so I have actually prayed before a lot of sermons, God, if I need to stumble all over this, if that's what's best, then do that. You know what I mean? I'm sounding like I'm such a mature Christian. It's like the one example in my life that maybe I got it right. I feel like at times, and which I don't do it all the time. But
like you said, it's one of those deals where, I talked about praying in a subservient manner where you're like, ultimately, God, we want your will to be done, but that doesn't mean that necessarily my prayer life is 100% perfect.
Yeah.
So it is one of those, it's one of those situations where, does God listen to those prayers? I think absolutely. Mm-hmm. If we're going before our Father, which the Bible makes it pretty clear He's our Father, He wants us to, He wants us to come to Him with our desires and everything. But I think it's one of those deals where, and you may have made an example like this one point in time where a child goes up to their parent and they're just kind of rambling on, and you're like, yeah, okay, buddy, hey, yeah, okay. Versus there's that serious dad, that listen to me, that whole, and, something that's going to draw his attention, draw his focus, and I think that's going to be a prayer that's, following his heart, not so much.
Yeah. So, have we answered this fully? I don't know. Probably not.
I'd say not. Yeah.
But I would say one thing to learn is ask yourself why you're praying certain things. Mm-hmm. Is it for your passions? And the Bible says, well, sometimes you don't get things because you're praying it for yourself. And so I guess it could go opposite. You're praying to win for selfish reasons, and God's like, that 3 is out. Like that free throw miss. I don't know. He could. Could he make the ball go in? Yeah, he could. But the point, I think, is that his goals are deeper than ours. It's not just to so that you get glory or something. Could he do it just to bless you? He could.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You got 4 mamas praying on one team, 4 mamas praying on the other. Who's gonna win?
I don't think it's one of those deals where he's just gonna pick which moms he likes best.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be one of those where he starts unfurling his paper and goes, well, these mamas on
Barbara
this side have
fed some people last week. Karen, she served some people.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave. We're going to move on.
Okay.
Maybe one of our shorter videos, actually.
Might be. So you're welcome.
We have a nerdy question for Mr. Dave. I think it's time for a nerdy question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Dave. It's a morbid.
It's a bit morbid.
Will a dead body decompose in outer space? Oh, that reminds me of a dad joke.
Boy, we got a dad joke that relates to the nerdy question.
Yes.
That's exciting. Okay.
Will a dead body, Dave, decompose in outer space?
So there's an answer for just in general, but the more specific answer is it kind of depends on the circumstances in which the body is made deceased.
Okay.
So if that body is lying in a space station or something like that and has somehow been introduced to bacteria and there's plenty of oxygen on board the spaceship, then yeah, the body will very slowly, relative to what happens here on Earth, it will break down. It will decompose.
Okay.
In general, though, in space, everything is very sterile.
Yeah.
And your oxygen quantities are kind of on a set limit. So, for example, spoiler alert, George Clooney floating off in space at the end of Gravity, he will never decompose. Okay? He is going to run out of oxygen in the middle of space, and he is going to slowly freeze, and that will be the state of his body until he enters the atmosphere of something else.
So it'll just be a Clooney popsicle.
It'll be a Clooney-sicle for the rest of his life, his existence.
All right.
Now, if you died in a warm environment, then you would basically become mummified.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. Your body wouldn't freeze. You would kind of shrivel up and become a human raisin, which is interesting to think about.
Yes.
So modern day King Tut, as it were. But you still wouldn't decompose because, again, most space environments are very sterile because the introduction of extra bacteria can play hazard with all sorts of things in space. Space is super dangerous, if you didn't know that.
Yes, I think I did know that.
Okay, yeah.
Seen enough movies.
Yeah.
Back to the science fiction movies.
Yeah.
That's where the aliens are.
That's where they are, yeah. It is super dangerous, so they take every precaution to even remove things like bacteria from your body so that even in the event of you dying in space, no bacteria to decompose you. So in general, no. There are specific circumstances in which you would.
In general,
But
not
in general,
so much.
not so much.
There you go. Very good, Dave. Very good. Okay, so now I have 3 dad jokes. I'm going to tie in with the one. It's a very loose tie.
Okay.
There was a composer
Uh-huh.
who was about to pass away, and before he died, he said, "Please bury me with all my works, all my compositions, all my works,"
Okay.
because he wanted to spend his time in the coffin decomposing.
Oh man,
I'm sorry.
That is a very loose.
Extremely loose. I did not tell it well either.
Oh man.
Okay, these couple are short and to the point. It's both of them involve a child asking a dad a question.
Okay.
So the first one, Dad, what is a forklift? Sorry. The first one, Dad, what's a forklift? And the dad says, food, usually. Classic dad joke. This one's a little mean-spirited, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
It might be my favorite of all
Yeah,
time.
you'll probably like this one. Child says to the dad, Dad, am I adopted? And the dad says, no. Why would I pick you?
Yes.
That's rude. It's rude.
But I like it.
I figured you'd like that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, guys. Thank you much. We've got about 3 or 4 questions to work through, but we're always looking for more.
Yeah.
And so,
Other kind of exciting news. We are up to 30 subscribers, so we're that much closer to the triple digits.
Wow.
And just
Amazing.
just keep in mind that the more subscribers we get, the more you share our videos, the more chance we reach people who don't necessarily believe and might need.
You got all serious there with it.
I know.
It's true.
I kind of toned it. Like I took, we tend to
Dad
end with
jokes
levity and tend to end with levity when I decided to just absolutely crashes into seriousness.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you watch it, just share the link on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, that's easy. I think it's
yeah.
easy if you
Honestly, and we've been putting most of the links on Facebook, so you can even just share the
go
post.
to the post and share that.
Share the post on your own Facebook page.
We're just begging for shares. We're just begging.
Some thirsty
We want
teenage
some.
girls just trying to get more likes on
real.
YouTube.
We want some real sponsors
That's
eventually.
true.
So,
That's true too.
all right, we'll see you all next time. Take care. Adios.
Yeah.